I'm super passionate about this one. Self-publishing. We are going to talk about self-publishing versus traditional publishing to some extent. I am a professional writer, book editor and publisher. I help people self-publish books. And we are going to use my client, Kerry Waterman, as a case study, I guess, for this conversation. So Kerry has recently published his book with me, and his profile lends itself to both conversations, the one about traditional publishing and the one about self-publishing. Okay, so to be honest with you, I don't fully understand what he does for a living because it's a lot. But the easiest way to understand what his current job is to think about DCI Luther. He's like a real life DCI Luther. Now he's also an author. This is Kerry's book, The House in the Middle, a Caribbean short story. It's a standalone short story, which I really love. It's an inspirational story as well. I have published several books. During my first consultation with my client, with Kerry, I had to let him know that there are other ways to publish his short story. One of those ways would be to start entering short story competitions. Obviously, he was not interested in that. That's a super time-consuming way, and also you don't really have the guarantee that your story will ever go into publishing. Another way might be to approach some traditional publishers. With that said, most traditional publishers, if not all, will not be interested in a standalone short story. Books are products for traditional publishers. So things like word count, theme, everything matters. They are looking for specific things, and of course they may fall in love with the story every now and again, but again, traditional publishing is a business. Books are products for traditional publishers. Short stories are not that commercial, especially when you come as a first-time author. So yes, so that was not really an option that was worth pursuing. Kerry wrote this short story to leave a legacy, to inspire, to pay homage to his Caribbean upbringing, and he wanted to see it in print. Self-publishing was the best way forward, and he decided to go ahead and do it with me. So one of the most exciting perks of self-publishing is creative control, complete creative control. You decide what you are going to write about. You can decide what your book cover is going to look like. You can decide what marketing strategies you are going to use to promote your project. All those things were important to Kerry. Another perk of self-publishing is that you do not have to wait for the green light. You don't have to wait for gatekeepers to open doors. You don't have to wait for agents. You don't have to wait for publishers. You can publish your book on your own timeline. You don't have to put yourself on somebody else's timeline and wait for them to say when it's okay, if it's okay to publish your book. Creative control, no gatekeepers. The two, I think, most important perks when it comes to self-publishing. Kerry is an excellent writer, but then he also has the follow through. He does the thing. He is very passionate about whatever he does, including this project. He believed in the project and was willing to invest in it. And on top of that, his publishing goals were very clear from the jump. If you have some of those qualities and you choose the right project, you can potentially make more money self-publishing than traditionally publishing your books, especially when you have a supportive network or an audience that you've already built up. Okay, so while we are here, let's debunk the two most common self-publishing myths, or myths about self-publishing. Self-published means low quality. No. Over the years, this has changed. Self-published works have gained a lot in quality and credibility. Just to give you an example, or two examples, Kerry and his book have just been featured on a primetime TV channel in Barbados. It was a 10-minute interview during which Kerry spoke about his book and, his journey as a writer. He also mentioned my publishing support, which I am so grateful for. I'm just going to play a short excerpt from the interview.
I think it's a story worth telling, and I loved writing it, and I'm really proud of the end result.
All right, like I said, it's an easy read. Talk to me about the publishing of it, the process. Outside of the 3 days and getting it down on paper, how were you then able to get it in a book and get it out?
Okay, so I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, Sean Walker, and she actually said to me, we've got a friend in England who does publishing, and she's really good. And her name is Monica Ribeiro. And I reached out to her, and she immediately, she knew what it was I was looking for. It was not cheap, but for me it was a labor of love. It was not about making money out of this. It was having that story, that legacy for,
Another example, just a few months ago, my youngest client ever and her book, Diary of a Twin, appeared on the BBC. As you can see, self-published works, if executed well, can be extremely credible and excellent. So now that myth number 1 is extinguished, let's move on to myth number 2. Myth number 2 says that it's all on you. It's not. There is so much help out there, self-publishing help, self-publishing resources, self-publishing services. You can and should outsource parts of your project to professionals. If nothing else, you should definitely outsource proofreading. That's when it comes to your manuscript. But you can also outsource the formatting of your book. You can outsource cover design, marketing. If you are not a good writer, you can even outsource the writing of your book to a ghostwriter. Summarizing, if you are a content creator, if you are a business person who has clients, if you have something valid to say, if you have a great story to share, you can self-publish your book. That's one of the options that's out there. But for good measure, let's touch on traditional publishing as well. Again, we are going to use Kerry as an example. Kerry is currently working on another project, on another book, and that would be his memoir. I would love to be part of that project too, but as a publishing consultant with integrity, I owed it to my client to let him know that for that one, he might actually be able to command some serious attention from traditional publishers. His professional profile is very attractive, is commercially appealing. He is a good writer, and there are a few other reasons that I'm going to talk about just now. But before I do, let me just share a short clip with you from The Fugitives, where Kerry and his team were featured.
It's the job of a specialist team of detectives to track down these unwelcome visitors.
It is important that we find these persons because quite often people think that they can escape justice by running overseas once they've committed a crime, and we need to send a message that wherever you are, we will find you and we will bring you to justice.
If I was to put Kerry in a box for marketing purposes, he would be like a Bayesian hybrid between DCI Luther and Paulo Coelho, the author of The Alchemist. You already know why DCI Luther, but now Paulo Coelho. The way Paulo Coelho writes is the same way that Kerry writes. Kerry wrote The House in the Middle in 3 days. So he just had it in his heart and he had to let it out, so he did. And then he was like, okay, this is my first book. I am going to release it to the world. It's ready. Of course, this was just the first draft and the manuscript had to be refined. But the point is, some writers take years to write before they decide, okay, I finally have this first book that I can actually show to somebody. That's not the case with Kerry, and that's also not how Paulo Coelho writes. He wrote The Alchemist, the best-selling Alchemist, in 2 weeks. And he was like, that's it, that's my first book, it's ready. So Kerry in the box, Bayesian hybrid between DCI Luther, Paulo Coelho. I don't see why a traditional publisher would not be just in love with the idea of wanting to publish his memoir, if it's well written, which again, Kerry, being a good writer, can totally make it happen. So that was my advice to my client. Despite the fact that I really would love to be part of his project, I have to let him know that he might be able to do this one traditionally. Another reason why this book might be a lot more attractive to traditional publishers is that memoirs are naturally a much more commercially viable option than a standalone short story. Another reason why an author might consider going the traditional publishing route instead of self-publishing is time. You know, as I said, Kerry is a force of nature. He does the thing. However, he has a full-fledged, amazing career that he is focused on. That's his first priority. So he does not have much time to invest in long-term book-related activities. So again, that's the advantage of traditional publishing. If you don't have that much time, or you don't want to invest financial resources into your project, and you don't mind waiting for a gatekeeper to open the door. But you see, even if Kerry goes ahead the traditional publishing route this time around, The House in the Middle, his first work, can be helpful if he plays his cards well. This work is somehow semi-autobiographical, so it kind of paves the way for the memoir. Part of the reason why Kerry wrote this book was to celebrate his Caribbean upbringing. He himself grew up in the house in the middle. So yes, the memoir and the short story are related. That's a wrap for today's video. I hope it gave you a few answers to the questions that you might have about self-publishing versus traditional publishing. If you would like to book a consultation, a publishing consultation with me, there's a link in the description down below. And yes, I wish you all the best on your writing and publishing journeys. Stay inspired, keep writing, and do not give up. Oh, and get Kerry's book on Amazon. It's available as a paperback and as an ebook. This is not a sponsored post. I've already been paid, okay? I'm not getting paid anymore.